Welcome to the today's session on cluster analysis, hierarchical cluster using SPSS. So what is cluster analysis? The cluster analysis groups the population members in homogeneous classes or clusters. The researcher does not know the groups in advance. They will be created during the clustering process. So the cluster analysis technique computes the distance between cases and then builds a similarity or proximity matrix based on those distance. The cases that are close to one another are included in the same cluster. The members of every cluster should be similar to one another and different from the members of the other cluster. So there are two main types of cluster analysis. The first one is the hierarchical cluster. This technique determines how many cluster best suits the data depending on the definition of the distance and the linking methods. The k-mean cluster, the second one is the k-mean cluster. This clustering method allows the analyst to specify the number of cluster in advance and then assigns the case to the cluster. Now these are the following assumptions. The first assumption is the observations are independent, and the second assumption is there are no significant outliers. So in this video we are going to talk about hierarchical cluster. The hierarchical cluster technique is preferred when the number of cases is low, usually under 200. And moreover, the initial variables for a hierarchical cluster can be continuous, ordinal, or nominal. So let us consider an example. So this is the example. This is the database we are going to use as an example. It contains information about 32 car models, and the variable of interest are car pricing in dollar, engine displacement, engine power, fuel consumptions, and the maximum speed. So if you go to variable view, we can see that all these are measured in the scale variable. And apart from that, we have two nominal variable. The first one is model name and the second one is called model symbol. So let's start with the analysis. So for the analysis, we go to analyze, go down, we have got an option called classification. And in classification, we have to select hierarchical cluster. So simply click on this. So once we click on this, we have got a new window in front of us, and we enter all the variable of interest in variables. That is price in dollars, engine displacement, engine power, fuel consumption, maximum speed. And we have to enter model name in label case by. So by doing so, we can easily identify the model number. So now we go to the statistics. In statistics, we have to check on proximity matrix, and in cluster membership click on range of solution. So maximum and minimum we have to select. So minimum number of clusters should be 2 and the maximum number of clusters should be 4, and click on continue. Now we go to the plots, and in plots we have to select dendrogram, and in iCycle we have to select none and click on continue, and go to the methods. In method, the first clustering method we have to select between group linkages. We do have other options, but for our analysis we are selecting between group linkage. And the next one is intervals. So in interval specifically we will select the Euclidean distance, and we simply click on continue. And now we go to the save button. In save button we have to again select the range of solutions. So the minimum number of clusters should be 2 and the maximum number of clusters should be 4. Click on continue and click OK. So once we click OK, we have got output in front of us. So the first output, we have to look at the proximity matrix. So proximity matrix, the rows and the columns are represented by the cases, the car model and the distance between the model. Example, the distance between Ford Mondeo and Ford Galaxy is 5406.275. So the program has created a cluster based on these distances. Now let us examine the cluster membership. So if you go down, just click on the cluster membership. So the first column contains all the list of models, and the rest of the columns are solutions generated by the programs. Example, Ford Mondeo LX is distributed in cluster 1 in all the 3 cases. So the cluster membership will tell the model falls in which cluster in all the 3 solutions. Also, the cluster membership is same as three new variables as shown. So if you go to the other one option, the data view, we can see there are three cluster membership: cluster 4, cluster 3, and cluster 2. We can see, so these are created by the program. And apart from that, if you go down, we can see dendrogram. So what is dendrogram? It shows how the algorithm created the class. Here the similar cases are combined together until they are grouped in the larger cases. So now the question is, which cluster has to be selected out of the three clusters, and how can we label those cluster? So now for that, let's find the number of cases in each cluster. So we'll try to find out over how many cases are there in each cluster. For that, we simply go to analyze, and we click on the descriptive, and go to frequencies. So once you go to frequency, we have to enter all the three clusters here. So enter them. Now once we click on that and click OK, so let's wait for the output. Yes, so we can see that the solution with 3 and 4 cluster, there is a cluster with only one case. You can just have a look over there. Solution with 3 and 4 cluster has a case with one case, a cluster with one case only. And now if you go down, this is the cluster 2. So in cluster 2 we can see there are two clusters, and in the first cluster we have 25 cases, and in the second cluster we have got 7 cases. Hence it is recommended to keep solutions with 2 clusters only. Now let us try to find out what these 2 cluster represents. To get more meaningful insight, let's try to find out the mean of the 2 cluster model. For that, we have to go to again analyze. We click on compare means, click on mean. Now in the dependent list, we have to enter all our variables: pricing, engine displacement, engine power, fuel consumption, maximum speed in the dependent list. And in the independent list, we have to enter the cluster 2 and go to the options. So we have to keep only the means, we don't want other variables, so keep the means only, and click on continue and OK. So once we click OK, we can have a look on the table. So the table shows the report. You can see the report table, and this table shows that the average means of the initial variables in each cluster. So if we examine the output, we get idea about characteristics of the car model in the 2 cluster. So we have got 2 cluster model. We can see the characteristics of each model. For example, if we say the cars in cluster 2 are more expensive than the cars in cluster 1. Moreover, the model in cluster 2 has higher technical specification. If we just have a look, the technical specifications of the model cluster 2 are quite higher as compared to model 1. So this is how we can analyze this result. And now let us generate the list of models under each cluster. Now we want to see under each cluster what are the different types of models are categorized. Now for that purpose, we need to split the data. So for that, we go to data. We have an option called split file. We have to click on organize output by groups, and we enter 2 cluster. Click on OK. Now by doing so, our data is now split into 2 groups, cluster 1 and cluster 2. Now we generate the frequency table for the model. So for that, again we go to analyze, we go to descriptive statistics, we go to frequencies, and reset this and enter the model name. So once we enter the model name and click OK, So once we click OK, you can have a look. We got two tables. The first table contains the model in cluster 1, and if you go down we can see the second table. This is the second table which contains the models in cluster 2. So if we just have a look, the model 2 contains all the cars which are premium cars like BMW 5 series, BMW 7 series, Mercedes E-Class. And if we have a look on cluster 1, we have got all the cars, the models which are quite lower end like BMW 3 series, and we have a Deo, we have Fiat Punto and all. So we can see that the second table contains top brands and the first cluster contains more affordable brands. So this is how we can segregate it, and this is how the clustering work, the hierarchical clustering work, and we can perform the hierarchical cluster using SPSS. So that's all for the hierarchical cluster analysis. I hope this video was useful. Thanks for watching.